Yo, 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 this is not the smartest guys in the room. How is everybody doing today? I spy my dear friend Tom. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing well. Pardon my voice. I'm getting over a bit of a head cold. So I have an extra deep voice. This is what happens when I get a little sick. My voice gets deeper. Um, it's my movie trailer guy voice, right?
You you sound like AI has already been added to your voice and made you a little deeper. I wonder if you just added some what do you call it, filter to your voice and you don't
I,
want to
I
admit it.
promise, I promise. No filter, nothing added. Exact same microphone and setup that I always use. The only difference is a head cold.
Okay, well, I'll take your word on that. Today, Tom, this is exciting. We are talking about vis and I got this right from you, so I'm going to phrase it and see if I termed it right. Visibility is cheap, trust is not. You can get visibility all day long, but it takes years, a lifetime sometimes to build trust, Tom. So when you brought up this subject, what was your thought?
Yeah, so it's one of those things that's there's actually a panel. They're going to have a panel on this specific topic at Cannes at the end of the month, and that was kind of the inspiration. That was what led me to propose this topic. But for years now, in this sort of era of social media, for virtually the last 20 years, it's been all about visibility, getting in front of people, right? Getting in front of your audience, um, quantity over quality, right? Proliferation, buying ad space. In fact, actually, I think Meta is going to supersede Google or Alphabet in terms of ad revenue for the first time this year. That's the projection anyway. Um, so yeah, it's been all about advertising, right? It's been ads, 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 spend on ads, buy ads, hyper targeted ads, get your ads in front of the right people, advertise, advertise, advertise. It's been this real kind of spray and pray mentality of just put yourself out there as much as possible, as many times as possible, in as many places as possible. Pay for it if you need to. Get in front of people. Get in front of more people. Like more is better, right? Has been sort of the predominant philosophy when it comes to business growth. And what we're seeing now is we've kind of hit a saturation point where virtually anyone for relatively low amounts of money can get in front of huge amounts of people. And in fact, I forget the term, I'm going to have to look it up, but there's actually this other thing that's happening too, along with this sort of this approach towards reaching your audience, and it's kind of a function of it. But basically, there are now agencies where you can go and for relatively little money, you what they do is they essentially contract with creators. They pay creators like a per thousand views base price. So it's typically like $1 per thousand views is what you get. And they say, hey, here's this product, here's this thing, here's this service, here's this company. Go make a video about it. And their goal is to get as many views as possible because the more views they get, the more they get paid. And it's sort of it's kind of fake virality, right? So what happens is you go to one of these agencies and you pay them a bunch of money and they go out to their creators and they put out this brief and they say, here, talk about this company. Here's the bullet points that we think you ought to hit. Like here's the high points, but like you make what you want for your audience. And then the creator goes and makes a piece of content, makes a video, and tries to get as many views as possible because they get $1 for every 1,000 views they get. And so we've really commoditized the metric of viewership. And so what they're talking about with visibility and what they're going to kind of tackle on this panel, I think it can, is this idea that visibility is pretty attainable. If I wanted to spend the money, if I had the cash on hand and wanted to spend it to go make my book Legendeering sort of go viral, right? I could do that. I could go out, I could hire I could contract with one of these agencies. They could put a brief out to their creators. Their creators could go out, shill for my book, try to get as many views as they can, to try to sell as many copies of my book as possible. Totally attainable. I could probably sell a lot of copies of my book that way, right? So visibility is very cheap in the grand scheme of things. The problem is that this visibility does not grow trust. It doesn't create what you really need for a long-term sustainable business, and that's trust. So unless you're going to hop from like product to product to product and not really try to build a brand or a business, visibility can only get you so far. And what we're seeing more and more is that people are getting increasingly fed up with uh, AI and this similar approach to impersonalized marketing and sales techniques, right? What people really want is they want to get to know people. And there's some of the trends that we're starting to see, some of the evidence of this that we're starting to see is that personal brands and brands that are represented by real people tend to do better, and are better received than brands that are heavily focused on impersonal sales metrics, and impersonal advertising. And like I know from my own experience that if I go to a website and I can't find an actual person described on that website, a picture of one of the real people behind the company, I am very unlikely to be interested in engaging with that company, because I feel like if you're not proud enough of the work that you do and the brand that you've built and the company that you represent to put your face on it, to put your name on it, then like, why would I trust you? Right? Why would I want to work with you? So anyway, I think we're at a really interesting place where we've kind of hit this threshold of visibility. We've kind of gotten to the point where it'll take you as far as it'll take you. And then after that, if you haven't built trust, if you haven't put in the work to develop real relationships and build trust with your audience, then you might be screwed.
Tom, those are great points. I agree with you. I made a list here of when you brought up the subject, visibility is cheap, trust is not, of things that I think build trust. And we could talk about them throughout the show, but and you can add your own too. But to your point, right now, I'm going to share some of the ones you already talked about. Consistency, like showing up consistently, showing up weekly, showing up doing the same thing, showing up in that Talix Media hat, showing up with Legendeering, showing up with the same kind of principles. So I think consistent effort in all things. That's my first one to build trust. And they might be out of order here, but the second thing I got here is pillars. Knowing when you're building trust, here's what I talk about. We've talked about so many times what I talk about: inspiration, positivity, smiles, developing content that elevates humanity. That's it. Everything you see from Dominick will be that in some form, or my belief of it. That consistency of pillars. You know what I'm going to deliver to you. So what you don't get, I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about this or that. This is what you get from me. Quality. This is something Tom focuses on. I focus on in publishing. Every stinking word matters. In us trying to do a better show every week, we try to get better. We try to give you, if we say we're going to give you an hour, we're consistent. We try to give you the best quality show we can, best quality product. Showing up anytime, it's quality. Okay, two more for you. I got a 5 list here. Energy. If you show up with no energy, right? Like Tom saying, show up with something that a site that doesn't even have a person on it. Like who there's no energy behind it. Energy is this. Energy is us talking, us being passionate about the product, the book, the show, the service you provide. You have to have energy. And then my final one, Tom, this is my quick list. The final one is gratitude. You got to be thankful. Thankful for the people that support you. Thankful for the opportunity you've been given. If you're not, if you're churn and burn, if you're just trying to, like you mentioned, the views and metrics and people just trying to get it, sell as many things to their community as they can, to their followers they can. Come on, that's not gratitude. That's just fleecing your audience. So those are my five. You, what do you think, Tom? And then we'll get to our friend Dr. Tachi. Go on.
I mean, I love it. I mean, look, we're pretty much on the same page here. I mean, a lot of that five encompassed, sort of my core philosophy and directives around legendeering, right? So yeah, I mean, we're totally in agreement. I think at the end of the day, what we're finding is this visibility play has been a revenue generator. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to claim that it hasn't functioned, right? I'm not trying to claim that it hasn't worked. It has been a revenue generator for a lot of brands and businesses. But what we're finding is it's a short-term prospect, and it is a shortcut that ultimately does not lead you to long-term sustainability and real growth over time. So yeah, so I think that's where we're at, and I think it's really interesting, that they're going to have this panel at Cannes at the end of the month, talking about this, because that really signals to me that it is happening. If it's big enough that they're going to host a panel at Cannes about this topic, they're not on the bleeding edge, right? They are watching the trends and trying to follow suit with panels that they feel will draw an audience, that there is an audience for, and that people will be receptive to. And so the fact that they're having this panel says to me that people are already feeling this. And this is a drum I've been beating, for as long as we've known each other, right? I've talked about building long-term sustainable businesses through trust, through real relationships, et cetera, right? And we've always, I think that's one of the things that we sort of first, engaged with each other on and talked about, right? So yeah, I mean, I've been beating this drum for a long time. It's interesting to see it start to really kind of come into focus in the sort of cultural conversation.
Tom, super interesting stuff. And it's interesting you mentioned trends. And as I think about this, like even let's say on a TikTok or an app, nobody wants to see me and Tom dance. But you may get views from dancing. They are not the right views. It does not mean me and Tom dancing are not the right views for our market. That's it, right? But people could be fooled by visibility and think because the app is promoting trends and a trend that is popular is dancing with a popular song behind you, that maybe I should uh, work my marketing plan around trying to go viral dancing to the new rap song, to the new Kanye song or whoever is out at this point. Probably that visibility, Tom, is probably cheap and not what's best for the brand. There's probably a better way for us to market, for us to build trust. So Dr. Tachi, good morning. Should I be dancing to Kanye and should Tom be dancing to Taylor Swift's new song, or should we be building trust another way? What do you think, Dr. Tachi?
If you're going to dance, please don't let it be to Kanye. He's a little off. Or Ye, as he's called. And Swift, man. So maybe not those two, but you can still dance. This is interesting because I wanted to bring it in terms of this whole thing of visibility is cheap and trust is not. Lately, I don't know if you've been seeing the conversations on social media. I mean, there are a lot of grifters out there, but there's this particular grift that's happening now. There is an individual named Cheyenne Bryant who has been using doctor in front of her name for years at this point. Well, her credibility is coming into question now because nobody is able to find any proof that she is who she says she is, that she got her doctorate. She said she got it from Argosy, and she couldn't get the transcripts or anything because Argosy closed, and it's not. And even Argosy said, came out with a post, if you were an actual student, you can get your transcripts through Parchment, that type of thing. So even the institution has come out and said this, but she's doubling down on this. So what I'm saying is she's very visible. She has been giving pseudo quackery advice to individuals for years, and high profile people. She's been on lots of podcasts as of late, and people know who she is. So she's very visible, but she's not trustworthy because we can't, as of late, we haven't been able to find anything. So it is absolutely very cheap to get yourself on any podcast, on any, to put yourself in visible spaces with notables. But the trust factor comes from actually being able to say you are who you are. And beyond that, actually showing that your brand of help has been useful across the board to different people. So this is what came up in my mind as you were talking about that. I relinquished the mic.
Thanks, Dr. Tachi. I appreciate that. And I think like just listening to you talk about that one individual kind of like got me thinking about this sort of broader grift culture that we've seen rise as a result of this easy access to visibility. And, we're talking about the people peddling pseudoscience, the people who are selling shortcuts, sort of mindset stuff, right? The sort of proliferation of people who call themselves coaches, but really just throw word salad at you and expect you to be inspired by it. People who are essentially snake oil salesmen, right? And that's what I mean by grifters, right? People who are selling nothing of use or something of no use, right? But convincing people to buy it simply because they can garner visibility, which lends patina, right? Or, sort of a veneer of legitimacy to the work that they're doing or the thing that they are grifting over. Yeah, and Dom, exactly. Liver King is a great example of one of these ridiculous grifters, right? I mean, the guy is, obviously, and was exposed for it, but for a long time, for years, completely denied that he was taking any sort of steroids or supplements to enhance his appearance, his muscularity, etc. And then was sort of caught out for it, and then had to come clean and had to admit that he'd been on a crazy stack of steroids, right? That he was on gear for years, and has been for years, and probably is incredibly unhealthy. And I think that's another thing that we're going to see a lot of in the coming years, is a lot of these people who are, sort of health and wellness folks being exposed for being incredibly unhealthy, excuse me, because they look good on the outside, but really they're in terrible shape inside.
Yeah, isn't that always ironic, Tom, when Bob from what was the show where the Biggest Loser, the guy from the Biggest Loser has heart problems, or when somebody else, they're doing so many steroids that then they get some kind of other illness or something like that, and you're just like, come on, and you can see it, it's so obvious, but visibility is cheap, to your point, that all they use their audience, right? That's not trust. And I mean, and then what happens once you use, let's talk about that. Once you use that audience and break that trust, then what do? Who's come back from that? That's do you have anybody?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I don't know of anybody that's come back from that, but I think that's exactly kind of what I talk about this all the time, right? But like you cannot churn through an audience forever, right? If you put yourself, your brand, your business in front of people, eventually you will run out of people to put yourself in front of that are willing to, sort of take the chance on a one-off purchase, right? Or take a risk on subscribing to your product or service or company or whatever app, whatever it is, for a period of time. You run out of people after a time. If you churn through that audience, uh, eventually you run out of people to churn through, and then where do you go, right? You don't go anywhere. And I think that's why one of the things that has sort of contributed to a real increase in the sort of failure of businesses, right? It's this sort of, which I think is pardon my French, but total bullshit. This whole Silicon Valley move fast and break things mentality, because what you end up with is a lot of broken stuff in your wake and people who are upset with you for breaking it. And then what do you do? Right? Then where do you go? And so I think it is not broadly applicable. It is not a system or technique or approach that will work for a lot of people. It works very well for a very few, right? And then those very few also make a ton of money selling the idea to a lot of other people, right? This whole notion of like, hey, here's how I got really rich. I'll tell you how to do it, and then you can be really rich just like me, right? That's a grift, because guess what? It doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. There is not a system that you can follow to a T that will lead you to X result, because every circumstance is different. Every application is different. It carries different variables, different circumstances, and different outcomes as a result. So this whole notion of, let me get in front of you guys and I'll just convince you this one time to buy my product and then I'm good, works for a time. And then that runway, you run out of runway and you're still on the ground. And guess what? You crash into the trees at the end of the runway. Right. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we're going to continue to see with people who take this kind of approach.
I have an all-time example for you, Tom, of churn and burner. Everything that you just said, that what was it, Griff? The I just watched a documentary about this person too. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan had the biggest audience in the world. He prayed on first. He rode the wave of the 80s. And then he said, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and sold everything, monetized everything there was forever, merchandised everything. And then we find out, wait a minute, you can't just say your prayers and eat your vitamins to look like him, because we find out he was taking steroids. And then we find out that he's not the nicest guy to the other wrestlers. Then we find out that he's not the best wrestler. Then we see him wrestle for years and he uses the same move for 20 years. Churn and burn. Audience got tired of it. People that he's selling got tired of it. Then you hear he talks about, makes racist comments. People get tired of it. And then by the end, when Hogan went to Netflix at the end, WWE brought him back. They bring him out on, like, in front of his audience, a company that he built years ago. When they finally bring him out, he thinks it's his last hurrah. He's going to use him one more time. And instead, they booed the hell out of him. And that was it. And really damaged his legacy, damaged everything. So Hogan, the ultimate churn and burner, Tom.
Yeah, and I think here's the fundamental thing that is missed in all of this, right? And it kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier, and sort of one of my driving beliefs is that you have to be relentlessly authentic, right? Because people don't get tired of people. People love people. We are, as a species, we are social animals. We love being in communities and interacting with other human beings. People love people by and large, right? What they do get tired of, what people get tired of is shtick. And you know, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in New York. It's a very sort of common term, you know, sort of Yiddish term that we use here in New York. But for people who aren't familiar with it, shtick is basically a performer's sort of signature routine or gimmick, right? So this is why Hulk Hogan, you talking about Hulk Hogan made me think of this, is Hulk Hogan had his shtick. And people ultimately got tired of it because it wasn't authentic. It wasn't real, right? It was a gimmick. And people get tired of gimmickry. And that's what we're seeing with people getting tired of and pushing back against this visibility thing, right? Because visibility is cheap. Shticks are cheap. Gimmicks are cheap. They're easy. They'll get attention, but ultimately people will tire of them. And when they do, if you haven't done the work to build trust, well, guess what? They'll get tired of your business too, and they will walk away from it.
True that, Tom. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Visibility is cheap. Trust is not. We're going to talk about some more people, some more subjects in a little bit, but this is almost the turning point of the show. So, Tom, it's time. It's that time of day for Tom's Thumbs. This is where you weigh in, thumbs up or thumbs down. I want to throw up a softball to you today, one that I think you'll be very happy about. Tom, thumbs up or thumbs down to the argument that today people have shorter attention spans?
Okay. So I'm going to get a little nerdy about this, and I'm going to get into a little bit of nuance and pick this apart a little bit, because I think, to my way of thinking, and this is my opinion, take it for what it's worth, probably not much, but this is the way I think of it. Attention is the ability to focus on a given thing, right? And so attention spans are your ability to focus on a given thing for an extended period of time. And what we've run into, what we've seen in the last, you know, particularly the last 25, 30 years of the sort of internet age rising into the social media age, is that our environments have gotten increasingly noisier. It, you know, our world used to be much quieter. When we were kids growing up, if you turned the TV off, there was nothing else to watch. It was just quiet, right? Unless you put on some music or whatever. But if you turn the TV off, there was nothing else to watch. Now, if you turn the TV off, you've got your phone. You can watch YouTube. You can, you know, watch reels. You can scroll through social media. You can, you know, search the internet. You can do whatever, right? You've got this Internet of Things, this access to media and stimulation 24/7, 365. So our environments have gotten incredibly noisy. People have not lost the ability to focus on a given thing. They have not lost the ability to focus on a given thing or to pay attention to something for a period of time. What has happened is that what we've seen happen is, because of this noise, it has become increasingly more difficult to achieve sort of an attentive state, to really focus in on one thing. So it's not so much that people don't have attention spans anymore. It's just that it's harder to garner someone's real focus and attention because there's so much stuff coming at us 24/7. We are bombarded with content. And my support for this is that streamers would not be successful. Netflix would not be successful if people didn't have the ability to sit down and look at something for a long period of time, right? Netflix's bread and butter is movies and 60-minute episodic content, right? And And their whole thing is they've created this ecosystem that encourages binge watching. So people will sit down and they will watch multiple episodes of a program, of a 60-minute program, 2, 3, 4 hours of a show in a row. No problem. Well, if people didn't have attention spans anymore, they wouldn't be able to do that. So people have attention spans. It's just really hard to get them to pay attention because you're constantly getting things thrown at you, right? So this idea that people don't have attention spans, I say, isn't quite right. I think attention spans are, again, sort of an evolutionary adaptation, something that is to some extent coded into our genetics and part of our biology. And so for those reasons, I would say the idea that people don't have attention spans anymore gets a thumbs down.
Nice work, Tom. And you put it together very well, made me think about some things. The Netflix binge is almost the argument or the proof. It's the argument and the proof to a concept. Well, how come streaming and all these other platforms are blowing up when you say that people's attention spans are shorter? Very interesting. I want to point out last week, Dr. Tachi, you mentioned broadcast media was based on the principle of broadcast fertilize. Was it fertilizing or spraying early in the day, Dr. Tachi? Such a brilliant reminder. So just if you want to touch on that and Tom's, just because I think you deserve to. Go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it came from the process of spreading seeds far and wide. So it was called broadcasting seeds. So we just borrowed that agricultural term to uh, refer to spreading the seeds of knowledge and information to mass audiences.
Fantastic stuff. And I learned from Tom today. Go on, Tom.
Well, I was going to say, an easy way to remember it, right, is for anybody that owns a house and has a yard, you probably have a broadcast spreader in your garage, right? It's that thing that you put the grass seed in. It's got a little hopper, a little bin. You put the grass seed in it and you push it around the yard, and it's got the little spinning disc underneath, and the seed kind of dribbles out of the bottom of the hopper and hits the disc and gets spread out. It's called a broadcast spreader, right? And that's exactly why it's called that. It's because it broadcasts the seed across your yard. And so to Dr. Todd, so an easy way to remember that sort of that the etymology of that term and the origin of that term is to just think about that broadcast spreader that's probably hanging in your garage that you break out every spring to put down some grass seed or when you need to anyway. Yeah, that's what it's from. That's where the term comes from.
Good stuff, Tom. That reminds me of when I was in the landscape business. When you have that spreader, and people, I saw somebody the other day doing it, and they were going like around in circles in their yards. You're supposed to make like a checkerboard throughout your yard, like a chessboard, so that you don't get like patches of green over here and patches that weren't fertilized. People go around in these circles, and then it looks like a racetrack in their yard because they didn't do it properly. So, all right, moving on. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking about visibility being cheap, trust is not. Jason, my friend Jason, I am sure you are not affected by views and stuff like somebody else's views when you're looking for content. So we're talking about visibility being cheap, trust is not. What say you on the subject?
I'm kind of confused. Visibility, what? It's cheap?
Yeah, only because everybody's doing it. It is not the only number. Trust takes years to build and that kind of thing. Go on.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say trust takes time with anything. That's never changed. Personal relationships. I was just watching Apple's release on what's to come this year, and everything that they did, their YouTube video or whatever it is, their media thing about, let's say, Apple Intelligence, is about trust, the personal experience, the customized experience. The more that it caters to you, and what you want to do, how you can accelerate APIs. Everything is catered towards getting to you to be that word that Tom said earlier, authenticity. It's been planted in us for a long time. We just didn't realize when it was happening, and Dr. Tachi, broadcast media. It's not, it you sprinkle the seed and eventually you slowly water. So trust comes at a cost. It's just not convenient how it, let's just say, ferments and becomes worthy. But what we trust in your example, like for example, Hulk Hogan, athletes, do they know when to call it quits even at their height? Did Hogan really need to take the risk of going out to, let's say, my generation, Generation X, who watched him in, WrestleMania 1 and 2 and watched him on regular television? And then he became outdated, and his escapades and his documentaries, his divorce, his branding, it became a distrust because it was packaged that way. Did I need to know his personal life? No, I needed him to be the entertainer. But that's the risk you take in visibility. The more that you are willing to step out, be vulnerable, and think that people might relate to you because you're vulnerable, now costs you much more and for a lot longer. And that's what I can say. I really can't allow.
Interesting. This is just so. Let me paraphrase, and Tom, you jump in on this answer because the. So I feel like Jason's saying that vulnerability, well, it could be the biggest draw ever, like authenticity, being super authentic, but it could be super risky as well. So, Tom, what say you?
I mean, yeah, it could be, but I think people overstate the risk. At the end of the day, it is scary to be vulnerable, right, with an audience or on the internet. It's scary to expose yourself in that way, right? It sort of gives access to your soft underbelly. It's like a dog rolling over on their back and showing you their belly, right? It is a vulnerable position. It's a scary position to be in because you don't know that you can trust everyone with that sort of knowledge or that access. The flip side of that is it is not scary for the reasons that a lot of people think it's scary. A lot of people think it's scary because they're concerned that it's going to alienate customers or alienate their consumer base. And the truth is actually the opposite, that more often than not, what happens when you're vulnerable and you're authentic, publicly, right, or outwardly facing as a business, what ends up happening is you build a really loyal fan base, right? You build really loyal, strong, loyal relationships with your audience that leads them to support your business, right, over time, and to recommend your business to other people who they know have similar values to yours. So I think a lot of people overstate or overestimate the negative impact. Really, I think the reason it's scary is because it's personally scary, right? It's personally scary to expose your vulnerability publicly, right? And I think it takes courage to do it. I admire businesses that do it. I try to do it to some extent myself, right? I don't really hold back too much. And I think it's to my benefit. There are going to be people that disagree with me, and there are going to be people, like I've said 100 times, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, right? There are going to be people for whom I am not their cup of tea. And some of them might be vocal about that, but you have to be okay with that. You just have to accept that there are likely going to be more people, and that the people who are going to stick around, who are going to circle you, are going to be the people who do enjoy the tea that you serve or the tea that you are, right? Who do share your values, who do agree with you. I thought it was really funny and apropos. And what I'm going to do real quick, Dom, if you'll indulge me, is I'm going to just show the comments real quick, because in our comments, and we'll be able to see this online in the live stream here and in the video, in the comments, we got ourselves a grifter. So here we go. Coach David Lucas came into the room and promptly left after posting this comment, but basically said, essentially said, don't depend on your salary. We can, if you have a computer or smartphone, I can show you how to start earning, $3,400 off of $200 in just 3 days of trading. DM me. And I guarantee it is not an accident that in his name on Clubhouse he used the word coach. That's not an accident, right? And I guarantee you, if you DM him, there is some cost involved. You have to give him some money to get his system, and then I would bet you all of that money that you gave him that his system will not work for you. So anyway, just the textbook definition of a grifter. Here we are popping up on social media. Like, this is exactly what we're talking about. He just got tons of visibility, right? I mean, not good visibility, let's be clear, because we're talking about how he's a liar and it's clearly not going to work and he's a grifter, etc. But I just, visibility is super cheap. All he had to do was hop in this room, post a comment, and then run away. And he got visibility in front of a bunch of new people. And if you do that enough, that again, that spray and pray mentality, you do that enough, eventually somebody's going to DM him and somebody's giving him money, right, for his system. And then he's taking their money and moving it on to find the next sucker to buy his next, comment full of snake oil. But anyway, I just thought it was hilarious that we got a grifter in the comments while we were talking about grifters.
Do you have a grifter or a bot? Because APIs make bots that would seem like a grifter.
Well, right, but Jason, then I would say, who is giving the prompt, right? Who's giving the prompt to an AI system, or who is running the API? Who wrote the program to create the bot? A grifter.
All's well. Hey, it's funny because when I was hoping you'd read that, and I gave 5 points earlier, I said consistency. Here's somebody that jumped in. We've never seen this person before. Pillars. I don't know what they talk about. They're not really talking about what we're talking about in this room. They're actually talking about the exact opposite of what's going on in this room. So they didn't do that. Energy. Well, the negative energy. Quality. Who knows what they got? I mean, like Tom said, it's probably not going to work. In gratitude, they left. They used the room and left without ever visiting, without following, without saying hi, without saying thank you. So forget them. Tom, you got a PSA for today? That's how quick we shift around here.
I was just thinking about that, and I'm like, I'm not sure. I've got a couple of different directions I could go in, and I'm not sure which one I want to go with. But I can go. Do you have one ready to go, or
no? Mine's not. Yeah, I'm working on it right now too.
You want me to go first?
You want to go first? Or
I'll go first. I'll go first.
Okay, go on.
All right, hang on a second. I'm just going to swap us around here, and so the clock is actually on my side while I'm doing my PSA. We'll try to do it a little different that way. So I'll have my clock, and here we go. So I think one of the sort of things that we often forget or overlook, right, is the benefit of the knowledge of history and how it can help us and show us how we should look to the future. This is in my mind because the newsletter that I wrote, the edition of Value First that I wrote that's coming out today, is kind of centered all around this, and it's centered around a marketing technique that dates back to the late 1700s and how it was employed in the early 1900s and how it is still being employed by brands and businesses today to build trust. So just because something is old doesn't mean it can't be adapted to the current media environment to still function. So when in doubt, I think look to history.
Good stuff, Tom. It makes perfect sense. Old does not necessarily be bad, right? Okay, adjust.
I think my wife, who was a history major in college, would also appreciate the nod there. Her love of history and my nod to it there. So Just had to throw that in.
Well done. What was that? An anniversary present for her? Okay, go on. Give me some kind of clock here. Here's what I got for you today. I am a sports lover. You guys hear me talk about sports often. I was thinking about starting a business of teaching people how to be fans. And I'm going to give you if just some basics here. If you are watching sports and it is the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go, we only talk about what is going on in the game. We don't stand in front of the TV and we only talk about what's going on in the game at that time. If it's the bottom of the ninth inning and it's a competitive game, we only talk. It would always be the competitive game in the bottom of the ninth. We only talk about what's going on in that game. If it's a boxing match and it's the 12th round, we only talk about what's going on in that boxing match. We don't stand in front of the TV. We don't talk about relationships. We don't talk about anything. We talk about that sports. And then, Tom, this is step two. We let the commentator and the noise of the television fill the void. I want to hear what the commentator is saying at that point. So quit getting in front of the TV, quit talking during important times. That's my PSA, Tom.
Yeah, and I think to that end too, and I know we don't always we don't often get into politics, and this isn't really about politics. This is about sports. If you are going to inconvenience tens of thousands of people and ruin their experience watching their team play in the finals of the NBA for the first time in 27 years, don't fall asleep.
You got me excited on this one. Now, I'm going to keep going. If you go to the game for the first time in 27 years and you're sitting courtside, I should have gave you this, Tom Thumbs. If you're sitting courtside and you're on your phone more than you watch the game, more than if I look and see you looking at your stinking phone every time and then showing your phone to somebody else. Tom, I wish I could do it, Tom Thumbs. Tom Thumbs today. DJ Khaled, you get a thumbs down. Did you see this guy on his phone the whole time?
What a clown. I mean, DJ Khaled is a clown anyway. Like if you had any question as to what kind of person DJ Khaled is, right? And the I don't know, the how well his sort of his persona stands up under pressure. All I would say is watch his episode of Hot Ones. That's all I gotta say. Like if you're not familiar with Hot Ones, Google it because you should be. It's a great premise. It's a great show. But watch his episode of Hot Ones. It is notoriously pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And I think it just goes to show that his whole persona, very much like Hulk Hogan's, is a shtick, and it doesn't hold up to pressure. So yeah, I mean, DJ Khaled's a clown.
I have to go to our friend from Mediascope on this. Dr. Tachi, did you see this guy on his phone the whole time? How annoying.
See, that assumption would assume that I was watching the game. I was not. But I'm not surprised because that's really, as you were talking about, that's his persona. He's for himself in the moment, regardless of what's going on. And I mean, I can't just say it's him. There are so many people that if you're not truly a basketball fan and not there for the game and you're just there for the optics, it's very easy to be on your phone the entire time and not get into it. So I don't know that he is a huge basketball fan. He's maybe just there for the optics.
Well, he stinks. And I'll tell you, on the opposite, Marissa Hargitay from Law and Order, she's front row yelling at the refs every time. Like I see her looking around the ref, like screaming. And now, like I'm in love. Like this show, like my wife watches Law and Order all the time now. Like I'm completely on the bandwagon. Timothy Chalamet, he's there screaming away. He goes without his girlfriend when she goes to the Met Gala. He still goes to the Knicks games. So I am a fan of the true fans. Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I can't wrap my head around how you could be in that arena. I mean, like just watching and just, even if you didn't watch the game, like just seeing clips, right, of the volume, right, the sort of electric energy in that space during that game, right? Like, I don't understand how you ignore that and either play on your phone or fall asleep.
See, you started that whole conversation, Tom, where you causing trouble, getting me mad about. I mean, I'm sitting here for 2 hours with my son watching the game, and every time I see either of those people, somebody sleeping or somebody on their phone at courtside, I'm like, come on, man. Okay, Tom,
Yeah.
set us up with something nice. Can
Well,
you
I
do
was just
that?
gonna say, look, I think my sentiment crosses the spectrum, right? Like, I think if you are conservative, right leaning, a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, progressive, a democratic socialist, whatever, wherever you sit on the political spectrum, it should upset you that someone uh, could create that much of a disturbance in that much of a sort of like seminal event, cultural event in a city, and then just fall asleep. Like, that should piss you off. I don't care where you sit on the political spectrum. It's disrespectful.
You're right, Tom. Tom, now I'm going to take us to somewhere sweet and kind. You ready to go to memory lane?
Yeah, I'm here for it. I think yeah, you said, Tom, take us somewhere nice, and I was like, you're calling on the wrong guy. That's your job. You take us somewhere nice. Take us for a trip down memory lane.
All right, I'm taking you somewhere where I went for 30 years, 40 years of my life. That is school picnic day. I don't know if anybody here has had school picnic day in my area. At the end of the year, right before the prom, you went to a park, an amusement park called Kennywood, and that was the school picnic. And everybody in the whole school went there. And like, it was the thing, the outfit you wore, who you went with, how you got there. You stayed until you could see, you stayed for 11 hours until the lights came on at night. And it was just a beautiful thing every year. You saw the older kids that were so cool. You saw the younger kids, and if an older kid talked to you or said hi to you, you were like the coolest kid in your group of friends. And it was every year, over and over. And even as a parent now, I took my kids to the school picnic for years and years and years. Just such a beautiful time. And in my area, Tom, after all this time, they moved school picnic from before the prom, which it was for 30 years, to like 10 days after school ended. What? How could you mess up something so beautiful? Sometimes when something is perfect, don't screw with it. School picnic was perfect. They screwed with it. But I just want everybody to remember those beautiful school picnic days. And if you didn't have one, maybe you can start that with your school and your friends next year. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I think that might be a regional thing. Out near out in the greater Pittsburgh area, because I've never heard of that before.
Ah, it's a beautiful thing. So imagine if your school, my school had a couple thousand people in it, and their parents and the parents of the parents who lived in the same area. So you're walking around, you see your friends' parents, and you see, and then even as a parent going, you see all these people that you went to school with, and it was just it was the perfect time of year. So if it is a regional thing, Pittsburgh region got that right, and you should get yourself to a school picnic at Nobles or uh, Coney Island or whatever the park is closest to you and start going there. But make it during the school year, not after. It was supposed to be the week of prom, and then prom was the next day. That was when it was perfect. So that's how it should go, Tom.
Oh, they ruined it.
Yeah, they really
They ruined the tradition that I've never heard of.
man, you are ruining things. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, it is time. What do you got for us today? You got a wrap up for us? Can you bring it home?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, look, we've been kind of all over the map today, right? We started talking about, very focused, talking on this topic of how accessible and achievable visibility is, and that at the end of the day, we're sort of getting to a point of saturation where ultimately we're going to find that all along, trust was really what you should have been working on rather than just trying to get in front of people. You should have been building trust with them, with your audience. Talked about that. We talked about Hulk Hogan. We talked about grifters. We had a grifter show up and post in our comments as if on cue to prove the point, who happened to have the word coach in his name, in his description on Clubhouse, which was also apropos because I think there are a ton of good coaches out there, but there are also a lot of grifters who like to use the word or the title coach to lend legitimacy to themselves. So yeah, I mean, to falling asleep at the Knicks game, to DJ Khaled being a clown, to all kinds of things, to school picnics. So we've been around the block, even hit on attention spans. But I think, where we've ended up, right, where we are today at the end of this conversation, is I think we've got a little bit of a better understanding and a clearer picture of what we mean when we talk about visibility being cheap. I think visibility has been democratized to the point that it is essentially accessible to any business. If you have a few bucks to spend, you can get in front of lots of people. You can achieve notoriety or visibility to a large audience relatively easily and relatively cheaply. The question really is, what does that do for you and your brand long term? That might help you make sales goals this quarter, maybe next quarter, maybe for the next several quarters. But where does it leave you after that? Where does it leave you when you hit that saturation point and people are tired of your advertising and they're no longer clicking buy? When you see your sales start to trickle off, where do you turn when the only game in your playbook, the only play you have, is more visibility? And the answer is there's nowhere else to turn, right? Visibility is a diminishing, is a prospect that has diminishing returns. Ultimately, you will run out of people to put yourself or your brand or your product in front of. And when you do, if you haven't done the work of building trust and building real relationships with your audience, then your business is gonna have hit hard times, essentially, right? I mean, you are going to see real problems develop for your brand and your business. So yes, I'm not saying ignore visibility. I'm not saying don't leverage that as an opportunity. But what I am saying is, at the same time, make sure you're doing the work to build trust with your core audience so that you can be sustainable long term, so that when you launch new products or new services or shift your business or look to acquire new customers or expand your market, you have the opportunity to do so, and you have a core audience behind your business supporting it through all of that. If you don't do that work, if you don't lean into that, I fear that you will find yourself, struggling in the long term. So I think that's where we're at today. And I'll just end it by leaning heavily into the fact that my voice is trailing off because of this head cold. And I will I'll employ my, I called it my movie trailer voice, right? So we'll do a little nod to a movie trailer. And we'll just say, in a world, visibility is cheap, trust is not. And that's all I got to say for today. Had to just lean into that real quick. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We thank you guys for being here with us. You are the reason that Dom and I are not the smartest guys in the room. You're the reason why we do the show every week, why we've been doing it for years, and we'll continue doing it for as long as we can, as long as you guys keep showing up. So thank you for being a part of it. We appreciate you. We love you. We will see you next week. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your week, and a great weekend. We love you. Thanks.